Potomac Beads. Join me in making this Cosmopolitan necklace featuring a 2-hole peyote stitch in the tubular form. If you need any materials, remember to check the links below me to shop with us online. To start out this stitch, I have some .006 wildfire beading thread and a size 12 beading needle with a stop bead on about 6 feet of the green thread. I'm going to begin by adding onto my thread 5 of my half tilas, which I'm using in the opaque turquoise green color. It's just a nice kind of standard Sleeping Beauty kind of bluish green turquoise. Once those 5 beads are on, we're going to hold that stop bead and sew back through 3 of those 5 beads. From here, we're going to do what's called a step up. This is going to be done anytime you're using 2-hole beads and you're doing a tubular peyote stitch. Go ahead and step up from that first hole of that Tila bead to the second hole of that half Tila. From there, we're going to add another row of our Tilas in. Go ahead and pick up a 15-0, and I'm using the matte metallic dark bronze in the Miyuki brand, a half Tila and a 15-0, and sew through the next Tila in line through that second hole. We're going to be catching the second hole of all of those first 5 original Tilas after we add in a series of 15 Tila 15. This can also be done with quarter Tilas. Half Tilas are going to be, or full-size Tilas are going to be a little thick because of the way that the bracelet's going to, or the necklace is going to lay. Go ahead and add a 15, a Tila, and a 15. And we're repeating this obviously 5 times because we have 5 sides to our piece. If you see the half Tila kind of laying down, just pick it up and move it off to the side. So that way you can access that extra hole. After you have on those 5 beads, I want you to take your needle and thread back through the original 15 and the original half Tila bead from this second row. Go ahead and exit through that first hole, and you'll notice you have a little bit of a flower shape. Step up from that bottom hole to that top hole. Now the nice thing is I'm using a green color, so you're really not going to see that thread showing on the outer edge. From here we're going to add in some 4mm round, and I'm using the brown Amazonite color, one of my favorites. Picking up a 15, Amazonite 15, and go through the second hole of that second row of the half Tila beads. You're going to repeat this again 5 times. So we're doing, this is actually peyote stitch. With the 2-hole beads, sometimes when you are doing peyote stitch, it doesn't even appear to be so, but this is tubular peyote. So I'm going to go in and add 5 of these beads, and if your stop bead kind of gets in the way, just push it off to the side. You also want your stop bead to be the start of the necklace piece. So as you're building, you're going to bend the piece away from that stop bead. After you get in on your thread and needle, your 5 gemstone beads, go ahead and just like we did this step up, go ahead and take your needle and thread through that first 15 and that first 4mm bead. If you want it a little bit tighter, you can go a little further. Coming on here, you'll notice we have kind of a little cone shape. Add in now a row of 15 Tila 15 and sew through just the 5 gemstones. So not any of the seed beads that sit along the side. 15 Tila 15, and this again gets repeated 5 times. This bracelet / necklace, I'm going to do it as a necklace design, would look amazing in a silver color if you want to try that, or an actual metallic color with the half Tilas, because it's going to look like a chain then. It has a very artistic look to it. That's why I called it the Cosmopolitan Museum of Fine Arts. So we're going around here. And after you get this 5th one in and go through that shared gemstone, so the gemstones, like traditional peyote stitch, are going to have 2 threads going through them. After you get through that last gemstone, take your needle and thread through the 15 and the Tila that you added first in this row around. Coming out there, step up from that first hole to the outer hole of that Tila bead. Once you're through that outer hole of the Tila bead, you're going to add a 15 Tila, 15, repeat that 5 times, catching on to that second hole of the Tila before. What this does is kind of frames out and almost makes the gemstones appear like they're sitting inside of a window or a frame. We're going to go with the frame effect since we're talking Cosmopolitan Museum. And after we go through here and add our 5 on, we're going to do our next 2 rows where it's just the Tila without any seed beads between. So I'm adding my 5th. I'm going to sew through that first 15 and the first Tila that I just added in this row. That's kind of stepping up to the next row of peyote. I need to then step up from the first hole to the second hole of that Tila bead. And these could also be little saucer beaded beads too, just an idea. Coming out here then, I'm going to do 2 rows where I just add my Tila beads. So I'm adding 1 Tila at a time. 2 wanted to go on, but just 1. Add a Tila, sew through the second hole of that last row. As you're doing this, you want to make sure that you pull tightly because the Tilas, they are rectangled, so they have a bit of a sharp edge. You just want to make sure that you give a nice pull so you don't see a lot of thread showing. That is one of the downfalls of a lot of tubular stitches. You will see a fair amount of thread. If you need to, you can kind of shake it down so that way that bottom hole of the Tila bead goes towards the bottom. And it kind of takes on like an octopus look. Last one to go on. Through that first hole that your thread was coming out of, and then also through the first hole of that first Tila that you just put on in that group of 5. Step up from that first hole to that second hole of the bead you're currently coming out of. We're going to do 1 more row, kind of shake that guy down there, of just 5 Tilas in between. After we're done this row, we're going to begin to build back up and start our process over. This process can be repeated as many times or as frequently as you'd like. This bracelet also and necklace, if you want to put something a little bit thicker through it, you can do that as well. I've gone through 5, and I've gone through my original bead that I just added, and I'm stepping up. This time as I do my next row, I'm going to add a 15 between each Tila. So I want to add a 15, or sorry, on the sides of each Tila. So again, 5 more of your half Tilas get added, this time with a 15 between each. 15 Tila 15, and then on. Again, we are doing 5. It's kind of a broken record, but you want to make sure that you have 5 on. If you're not sure where to step up or you're getting confused at all, go ahead and lay out your half Tilas in piles of 5, and that way you know when your row is completed. That's a good idea for any time you're doing peyote in that tubular shape, or even peyote flat. From here, give a nice tight pull. Step up from that bottom hole to the top hole. As I come out that top hole then here, it's time to go back in and get ready to add in my next round of my seed beads. So I have my next round of my 15 and then gemstone and then 15. As you're coming around, then you'll notice that you have a nice kind of window box section for this bracelet where you have it almost framed out that little gemstone. Would look really cool too if you wanted to use something like a diamond duo in there and continue on with that 2-hole peyote. I'm going to continue building on to my piece and getting that nice kind of tiling effect. Once you have your piece as long as you want it to be, and this one here is going to use about the whole thing of Tila is getting you about 6 inches if you're using a 9-gram tube. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually add leather in the interior of it. So what I'm going to do is just kind of close off the end, going through like I would get ready to add a next level of Tilas, stepping up. And then instead of adding the Tilas, I'm going to add 2 15s and go the whole way around. I will circle around this 2 times. If you want to add an end cone or something like that, you would also do the same thing. Basically think about downgrading the size of the peyote stitch that you're doing. This is a great opportunity to kind of clean up your mat, picking up 2 15s and sewing into the second hole of all of those last Tila beads. Once I'm through that second hole, then I'll take the extra thread that's on my needle and thread and just sew back down into the peyote to kind of finish it off. The final step I'll do is just run my leather, my 2mm or 3mm leather, right down through the center. It has an awesome slinky kind of accordion feel to it. It's one of those bracelets, it's really fun to hold because you can kind of play around with it. Gives you that whole kind of Chinese finger torture tube kind of feel. And there I have my closed up tube, still plenty of room. Again, I'm going to reinforce that last edge. If you want to close it completely and you want to add loops or something onto the end, what I would suggest is take 2 more 15s and do peyote stitch. 2 15s through the 2 there, 2 15s through the 2 there. And downgrade then and do 1 15 on your next row and so forth. And that will pull it in nice and tightly and close up that end for you. I'm going to go in here, sew through one more time. On the other side, I will take off the stop bead and make this other side mimic as well to finish up the stitch. Thanks so much for joining me in making this very sleek Cosmopolitan city-based necklace. Remember, if you do need any materials, you can check out the links below. Also, comment below if you substitute and do it with something other than those half tilas, quarter tilas, super duos, mini duos. Let us know exactly what you did and how it turned out. You can also hit that bell in the corner to subscribe to us to get regular updates from us here at Potomac Beads. Remember, again, there are links below me in the description to shop with us online at PotomacBeads.com as well as PotomacBeads.eu.